we have, and I'm a wordsmith, so I pick things a little bit carefully, but I use the word performer to describe the gentleman behind me because that's what he is. He's a thought leader. He's a man in every sense of that word. He's an orator. He's creative. He's an artist. He's a philanthropist. He's a humanitarian. He's a guy I want my boys to know. He's the type of human being that doesn't just talk about it, although what comes out of his mouth is beautiful. He's the kind of guy that says, don't talk about it, be about it. He's an author. He's a writer. He's a speaker. He's an actor. He's my friend. Mentor. Hero. Admirer. Stud. He's the kind of guy you want to hang around. Not because he does anything other than make you feel good. Not because he's speaking shit, but because he's not afraid to take what is and show you what could be. Does that sound familiar? Ladies and gentlemen, John F. Dilworth is an amazing human being. He's been a friend of mine since the day we launched this movement. I have long sought him out as one of our speakers, one of our thought leaders, one of our performers. I think his career is ahead of him. His accomplishments are beyond our recollection at this moment. But he's the kind of guy that 20 years from now, you say, I saw him on an October evening in 2021 at a small bar in Buckhead. And 500 other people will say they were here. Look around. What do we got? 30? 38. The communications chair, the accountant. The truth of the matter is, John F. Dilworth's the kind of guy that people want to say they knew after they make it. John F. Dilworth's the kind of guy I want to watch make it. Ladies and gentlemen, John F. Dilworth.
That was great. That was great. I feel like the poetry has already been spoken. So I don't really have much left to do. But it's good to see everybody. I'm glad that we all made it. I'm glad that we are here allowing our synergy to bubble over. And a lot of the things that he talked about really resonate with what you can expect from me. The positive vibe, the positive energy, the desire to see others grow is something that is in my DNA. I can't take credit for it. I got it from my parents. They instilled it in me. So I want to make sure that we make really good use of our time together. So I'm going to get straight to it. Like he said, my name is John F. Dilworth II. I've got 2 empty pockets, 4 ideas, 1 body, 1 mind, 1 soul, 0 fears, and 0 years to waste. The deadline is approaching. I'm a numbers cruncher. By day, I'm a clock puncher, but by the time the sun touches the ground, I'm a superhero, a real live entrepreneur. I speak in visions and make my own decisions. But there is one choice that I cannot choose. I cannot choose to lose. Failure is not an option because I am the best. Who am I? What am I? I am success. I make motors move. I'm the king of the gasoline dream. My skin is the color of zeal. I'm slick as a banana peel, so I should not be stepped on. I am the bed of needles. I will not be slept on. A long time ago, they tried to stop me, but I kept on, and I am still moving. There are these green lights stuck in my head. That's why I keep it moving. Adversity is to me what nappy hair is to hot combs. Just another chance to do my thing. I'm the king of the gasoline dream. And I speak in sparks, I speak in visions, and make my own decisions. But there is one choice that I cannot choose. I cannot choose to lose. Failure is not an option because I am the best. Who am I? What am I? I am success. So that right there was not a poem that was shared to make myself seem any larger than I am. When that poem was written, I was 24 years old and I was as broke as I've ever been in my life. I was newly married. I remember getting ready to go to work, and I would jump in my Cadillac, my old DeVille, and I would go to the gas station, needing gas to get to work, stick my card in the machine and start praying. Because I knew my account was already overdrawn. I was eating syrup sandwiches. I don't know if everybody in here knows what syrup sandwiches even are, but that was a part of my diet when I wrote that poem. But I share that because I want to point out that the first line in that poem is, I've got 2 empty pockets. The last line in that poem is, I am success. How does that even add up? Like I said, I was a numbers cruncher, but that don't seem like it add up, right? Well, the thing is, how you see yourself. How you see yourself right now is what matters. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey to success. The way you see yourself is what matters. And the ability to motivate yourself from within. Because a lot of times we need motivation, right? When everything is going a little bit sideways, plans don't seem to be going the way we kind of mapped them out, we need motivation. But what happens when the people that we look to motivate us aren't around? What if the person that motivated you was your father and you lost him? What if there's some podcast you listen to get juiced up and that podcast doesn't release its show that week when you need it the most? What do? You've got to be able to motivate yourself from within. I was praying that my card would go through when I arrived at the gas station, but I still saw myself as success. I didn't allow my circumstances or my situations to change the potential on my life, to change the trajectory that I was on. I made it out of that, right? Not very long after that exact situation, when I was writing that poem, a few months later, I was headed to Iraq. And when I went to Iraq, I was making more money than I had made at any time before in my life. Things changed for me. But what didn't change was how I saw myself. And I just want to encourage everyone in here that whenever you look in the mirror, it doesn't matter what you're going through, because you're going to look in the mirror on some of the bad days. You still got to brush your teeth even though the day ain't going right. So when you look in the mirror, what you see has to be what you know you are meant to be. If you see anything else, then it's almost like pedaling backwards. You're going to allow your circumstances to bring you down. So I share that because I want to make sure that people understand that getting from the one place to the other starts on the inside. It starts on the inside. I also share it because I know that I'm in a room full of people who resonate with the mindset of success. Everyone in here can resonate with that message, I am success. But everyone in here has been through some things that the outside world may have said, that's not what success looks like. Success doesn't look like that to me, but it doesn't matter. See yourself, know yourself. Now, as a motivational speaker, I typically revolve everything around purpose. I curate the process for you to live your purpose and build wealth at the same time. But I'm a poet first. So if I were to merge the two, if I were to take the motivational speaking and the poetry and put them together, it would sound like this. There are a million ways to make $1 million. But how do you make a million more? And how do you find a way to do it that fits into who you are at your core? That's the topic we'll explore as we peel back the layers and determine the actions that need to be taken to complement your prayers and make sense of your pain and yield fruit from your sweat. But are you willing to be a risk taker on yourself? Are you willing to bet? Okay, step one is eliminating distractions that prevent you from knowing your purpose. Step two is self-discovery and understanding what's under the surface. Step three is in being able to articulate your dream, even if the audience is only the mirror. Step four is moving forward once your direction has been made clearer. Because there are a million ways to make $1 million. But how do you make $1 million more? That's the topic we'll explore as we uncover the depths of your passion, as we find a way to answer the questions the world is asking, like, who are you exactly? What do you bring to the table? How much are you willing to sacrifice to make your wobbly life turn stable? What does winning look like to you? More importantly, how does it feel? Now you're tapped into the source of your determination and will. Now the world is your oyster, no different from anyone else. But in order to overcome the obstacles, you've got to believe in yourself. Because there are a million ways to make $1 million, but how do you make $1 million more? And how do you find a way to do it that fits into who you are at your core? Now, that comes from a question I asked a lot of people over the years. I've asked people, what is your purpose? Anybody think they know what the most common answer I've received is? Anybody? I'll be the spoiler. What do you say?
I don't know.
Thank you. The most common answer I get when I've asked people since I was a lot younger than I am now, I say, what's your purpose? I say, I don't know. Well, I think that purpose is living in your purpose is the highest form of living. I've asked people the question before. I said, well, some people have said, well, it's to raise my children, to be with my family. And those are great answers. Everybody's purpose is their purpose. But I also believe that your purpose is your space for greatness. You can make a bunch of money. You can have a successful career. You can do a lot of things that people will just ooze over. But if you're not working to fulfill your purpose in life, there's always going to be that little empty space. And that space is where your greatness is. Everybody has a purpose. Now, no one's purpose is any better than or worse than, higher than or lower than the next man's or the next woman's. But the people who you see in your life, the people who you looked up to growing up, the people who you admire in business, the people who you see really hitting their stride, if they're doing it to the level that makes you want to aspire to it, it's probably because they're tapped into their purpose. And so those 4 little steps that were in the poem, the step 1, eliminating distractions. That for me is how I came into contact with my purpose. I remember being 21 years old. I had been in and out of jail. I was a knucklehead. My life was going down. But I started reading my poetry. And as I started reading my poetry, I was reading it because the notebooks I was writing in as a young person, they started getting kind of worn. And I'm thinking to myself, if I don't type this stuff up, it's going to be lost forever. So I started typing up the poetry I had written since the age of 16. And as I started having to go through each line of each word, I was being motivated. And what I ended up doing, our house had a crawl space at the bottom. You know what I mean, where you stick the lawnmower. I took my Bible, a candle, and a gallon of water down into the crawl space. I was 21 years old. And I told myself, until I figure out what I've got to do next to turn my life around, I'm not coming out. And I ended up spending about 8 or 9 hours down there. I could hear my dad was a big dude. And we had the hardwood floors. I could hear him walking around the house, right over my head. And I could hear my mom saying, "Where Johnny at?" But even when I heard them looking for me, when I heard them calling out for me, I had not accomplished what I went down there for. So I stayed. But in staying, I was able to move on to step 2, which is self-discovery. You've got to figure yourself out. And I know a lot of times in a networking atmosphere, your mindset may go to figuring out everybody else to see what I can get from this, what I can gain. And that growth will occur. But the growth will not occur if you're not first looking within yourself to figure out what needs to happen in order for you to get to the next level. Step 3, articulating your dream. Even if the audience is only the mirror. You've got to be able to say what it is you're trying to do. You've got to be able to articulate your purpose. Even if you're only saying it to yourself, write it down, make it plain. If you cannot concisely describe to yourself or anyone else what your purpose is, I don't care how many times you get promoted at work. I don't care if you're over in one region and they add a region to it. If you can't articulate the why, as Bill mentioned, then you're going to be drifting, you're going to be wandering, and you're going to be doing what everybody else basically thinks you should do. But your purpose, your greatness, may lie deeper within yourself than that. Now that's me wearing the motivational speaking hat, but that poet hat just keeps pulling at me. And as you can see, I've got a book. The book is called A Collection of Collections, Black American Poetry. Now, the way this book came about, to me, is really interesting. So when COVID-19 started, early 2020, I told myself, you know what? While this is going on, I'm going to write a few poems. And I'm going to take these poems and I'm going to match them up with some of the most prolific social media posts that I see during this time. And I was thinking, I'll just take this. It'll just be, a couple of months or so. So while this is going on, I'll write these few poems and then I'll just release it as a free PDF, just free to the world. And when I released it, or when I started working on it, everything started building up. George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. And it's like, wait a minute, I can't just write about COVID-19. The presidential election, the national elections, where it seemed like Republican, Democrat, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, everybody seemed to be so divided. And as the year kept going on, I was thinking to myself, I can't just make this a COVID thing. I was going to call it 19 Chronicles, push it out. But I realized, no, this has to be more than that. And in the middle of me coming to that realization, a good friend of mine, an old white guy, born and raised in Atlanta, he came to me and he said, John, I don't understand. Why are people so angry? And initially, wait a minute. What do you mean? Why are people angry? Did you not just see what was just captured on video in HD that has the whole world in upheaval? But I said, wait a minute. This person is asking me a question. They're trying to get my perspective. And what I had come to realize is that with all this polarization between people, a big problem is that we're not hearing each other's perspective. And so I sat with him. And then we had a larger group and we had a larger conversation. Why is it this way? And in that, I realized that I've got to make this book about perspective. So what a collection of collections Black American poetry is, it's basically poetry I've written over the first 21 years of the 21st century. So I expanded it to go from 2000 and culminate in 2020. So the book has 5 collections of poetry, and the reason why I spread it out is because my perspective as a Black American poet, a young Black man in America, my perspective needs to be heard. But it doesn't need to be heard to make me feel any better. It needs to be heard so that someone who comes from a completely different background can realize that, wait a minute, that young Black dude from College Park is actually, when you reveal what's under the surface, he wants the same things as me. His heart is in the same place. And that's what's happened to so many of us, is that we realize, wait a minute, I'm not hearing anybody other than the people who agree with me. And so there are some things in the book that are controversial. I'm keeping it light right now, but the book doesn't hold any punches. Because we've got to be able to openly and honestly share perspective. So what I'll do, just to kind of take us to the finish line here, is I'll just share a couple of poems from the book. And I'll share poems that I think this audience would appreciate. Now, I believe that my purpose is to motivate the masses to do 4 things: appreciate their blessings, learn from their mistakes, think optimistically, and use whatever they've been blessed with to be a blessing to somebody else. And the way I do it is by living by example. That's the way I do it. People think that the poetry, no, it's not the poetry. What it is me living as an example of appreciating my blessings, learning from my mistakes, thinking optimistically, and using what I've been blessed with to be a blessing to somebody else. So with that being said, I'm going to share a poem, and the poem is called Blessings and Mistakes. Appreciate your blessings, learn from your mistakes, and use that to survive the high stakes and bad breaks. Stand out and blend in like a Brazilian chameleon if that's what it takes to rise. But never forget the real reason you strive. The world will take its dips and dives, so hedge yourself against uncertainty. Dream your dream and strategize. Appreciate your blessings. Where would you be without them? That's why I remain grateful, even in the world where we're surrounded by so many that are hateful. Learn from your mistakes. Use that to survive the high stakes and bad breaks. And there will be some. But what would you do differently if you could look back like a rerun? Now therein lie the lessons as you learn from your mistakes and appreciate your blessings. That poem is a direct iteration of my purpose. Me being able to share that with you is the reason why I have the greatest feeling in the world, which is knowing that every day when I wake up in the morning, I'm waking up and I'm living my life of purpose, on purpose. And at the end of the day, there's no reason why everyone else in this room shouldn't be doing the same thing. Not because of me, but because just like I was born with one, guess what? You were too. So I'll share one more poem before I turn it back over to Bill. This poem is also directly related to what my purpose is, but this one is also direct motivation to each of you. Setbacks have come my way on this highway, but it's better than the low way. It's better than looking at my challenges and saying, no way. It's better than seeing opportunity and saying, I'll never make it through that doorway. I just can't settle for the sure way. There's no easy way on this hard road, but the hard road leads to high places. I guess that's why Hope leads to faith after experience leads to patience. And I must live as an example. Therefore, I cannot allow my dreams to be trampled. So when I'm faced with obstacles beyond my strength, God helps me overcome what I can't handle. He's my guiding light when these harsh winds blow out my candle. He's the foundation on which I stand while so many others choose to sit. But maybe they give up because they don't know that you don't lose until you quit. Just keep pushing and keep going. When it's raining and when it's snowing, when the earth is quaking and the ground is shaking, when your world is flooding and your heart is breaking, joy will come in the morning, no matter how long the sun is taking. Victory is sweet, but defeat produces a bitter blend. And the race is not given to the swift, but he who endures until the end. For me, the danger of dying is more acceptable than the shame of giving in. I just hope that you're receiving the message I'm trying to send. Because when I focus on my purpose, my passion takes over the fight. And yes, it's a heavy burden, but it's filled with so much light. It's filled with so much value. It's filled with so much worth. And we all have a purpose of our own that we've been carrying since our birth. That's the foundation on which I stand while so many others choose to sit, but maybe they give up because they don't know that you don't lose until you quit. It's not over until it's over. Go on, revise that business plan. Stand up for what you believe in. Be a real woman, be a man. Keep applying to that job. Keep taking the test until you pass. Keep studying, keep grinding, keep refusing to settle for last. Keep working towards those dreams, but keep your focus and your peace amidst the chaos, cries, and screams. Because no excuses will be accepted, and failure, remember, is not an option. Don't listen to the naysayers because they want to see you stopping. They want to see you stooping to their low levels of expectation. But you are an achiever, a superseder of situation. And if these words are motivation, then I am your relation, not by blood, but by struggle, like faith and like foundation on which we choose to stand. While so many others choose to sit, because we know and understand that you don't lose until you quit.
Oh.
This time you're gonna get it right. Let's get it right. I believe.
Oh, come on, you do better than that.
I believe.
Ladies and gentlemen, turn that door.
I'ma get it right this time. I'ma get it right this time. I'ma get it right this time.
I'm getting it right this time.
I'ma get it right this time. I'ma get it right this time.
I'm gonna get it right this time right here.
I'ma get it right this time.
If you out there when you got a plan, you got a goal.